Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Maverick News Channel. Great to have you here. We have news breaking, developing on the fly as we speak. Justin Trudeau has landed in Palm Beach. He's down there to meet with Donald Trump. We'll tell you why. Aleppo, Syria, has fallen to rebel forces. And the conflict in Ukraine with Russia continues to escalate. Emotions running high, and the information war continues to rage at levels that are simply unprecedented. Stick with me. There's all that and a whole lot more coming right up.
Greetings brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight for freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are two iconic artistic designs to choose from, but there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech, free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
We are back. So much to talk about tonight. Justin Trudeau has landed near Mar-a-Lago. I'll tell you why in just a moment. But this is huge international news. Out of Syria tonight, in a stunning turn of events, rebel forces have reportedly entered Aleppo, marking a significant escalation in the conflict that has been largely dormant there since the 2020 ceasefire. Bashar al-Assad, sort of Putin's buddy there in Syria, and it looks like he is in a heap of trouble. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reports that the offensive, led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham alongside other allied factions, has resulted in the capture of dozens of towns and villages in the Aleppo and Idlib provinces. This offensive has seen some of the deadliest fighting in years, with over 250 people, mostly combatants, killed. Civilians have not been spared either, with at least 27 reported dead. But as Syrian forces fall and rebel forces, and I should say Russian-backed Syrian forces fall, and the rebels move in, we are seeing celebrations in Aleppo tonight with the people in the streets. Here's how things look tonight in Aleppo. As I look at things online tonight, I see pro-Russian influencers not happy and leveling accusations at Turkey for being involved, arming the rebels. It is certainly a situation where we have pro-Russian and anti-Russian forces clashing because Assad is propped up by Russia. Now, that being said, I guess you can sort of judge where the people stand on things, maybe to some degree, from video you see online, but take it all with a grain of salt because you're seeing clips, not a broader picture. This is social media. Nevertheless, more video of celebrations in the streets, even with fireworks. And it looks like the Assad forces in Aleppo didn't have much at their disposal to put up much of a resistance at all. And the rebel forces rolling right into Aleppo and area, the greater Aleppo area, tonight, with a convoy well over a mile long from the most recent reports out of there. This is what that looks like. Oh, I think I have the wrong clip again for you here. Hang on, let me get you the correct video. Here we go. Yes, okay. Here's the convoy.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أرتال الثوار تدخل مدينة حلب بالمئات. الله أكبر الله أكبر والعزة لله. الله أكبر ما شاء الله ما شاء الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. بسم الله ما شاء الله ما شاء الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. العزة لله. الله أكبر والنصر من عند الله.
We'll be following this one closely over the next few days, I'm sure. And as rebel forces reached the statue of Bashar's deceased brother, Bashar al-Assad, at the eastern edge of the new Aleppo district, the Syrian flag was taken down, marking a symbolic moment in the conflict there. And it looks like the Russian forces that have been there to support Assad also fled the area tonight. And here's what it looked like as the Syrian flag was taken down.
حلب الجديدة الله أكبر الله أكبر الأبطال المجاهدين الآن الله أكبر نزلوا داخل حلب الجديدة الله أكبر الله أكبر الأبطال المجاهدين.
It also looks like the rebel forces are pretty well equipped. Vehicles, weapons. We're told that at some point along their journey, they've managed to confiscate tanks, other armored vehicles, guns, and other weapons from Syrian forces. Not to say that they haven't been armed by supporting forces. I'm certain that is the case as well. We'll get more details on all of this over the next 24 hours, and we will continue to update the story as the situation progresses. Now, let's stick with something a little closer to home, although tonight Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is not at home. He has flown down to meet with Donald Trump. Apparently in Mar-a-Lago. His plane has touched down in Florida, and it looks like he's dining with the president-elect. Now, why would that be? I think it's fairly obvious. It's because of these tariffs. Now, government officials are being pretty tight-lipped about everything going on tonight, but this is a sudden trip. I would say even an emergency trip. An emergency trip being taken for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the fact that Trump is talking about imposing a 25% across-the-board tariff on everything that is exported from Canada to the United States. If that happens, Canada's economy clearly would be in a whole heap of trouble. This signals something somewhat alarming, I would say, in particular to not only people who advocate for free trade, but also I'm hearing alarm bells being rung by people who are even at times somewhat protectionist. But in this particular case, it indicates that this new Trump administration is somewhat different than the first incarnation that we witnessed back in 2016. Now, Trump has always been something of an America first isolationist, if you will, not afraid to use tariffs. And I've been having conversations with people about tariffs as they might be used by Donald Trump. And I've indicated I don't really have overall much of an issue with Trump using tariffs against countries like Japan. But in my mind, when this was first being spoken of, not only by Trump, but also by Joe Biden, it was being offered up as a solution to unfair trade practices being initiated, used by China and similar countries, in particular China, where massive subsidies, for instance, for the electric vehicle industry make it virtually impossible for anyone else to compete with them, because China, with their subsidies, will even take things to a position of economic loss in the short term in order to gain long-term advantage, or even short-term advantage to guarantee long-term advantage. Subsidize to the point where an industry is operating overall collectively at a loss in order to put competitors out of business. And then, of course, you'll profit in the long run. That seems to be the case with certain sectors. But what's going on now? This is more of a, how can I describe it? Sort of a brute force or raw force political economy that Trump seems to be initiating. A do as I say and almost authoritarian economics, in a manner of speaking, because he's using the sheer size and weight of the American economy to get what he wants from trading partners, not just economic adversaries like China that are known for stealing technology, copyright, and trademark infringements, illegal acquisition of different kinds of production processes, and illegal manufacturing of patented products and then shipped to other countries. This has always been a big concern for Trump, but what he's doing now goes way beyond that. This is imposing or threatening to impose massive tariffs across the board on a country that is the largest trading partner that the United States has right next door. We're not just a trading partner, we're like family. We are like we're integrated. I know that even auto industry executives have for a long time essentially treated the Canada and US auto markets, especially since the original Auto Pact, as essentially an integrated one market industry in terms of manufacturing. That's all changing under Trump. And I have to say, I'm disappointed to see this emerging in the way that it is. This is very aggressive, not friendly, and not aimed at mutual benefit. Now, some people would say that this is just Trump's way of bargaining. It's his art of the deal, but this doesn't feel quite like that. And so tonight, Trudeau on a plane heading on down to Mar-a-Lago. Unexpected, really unannounced, but we found out about it. A few other media outlets found out about it just a few hours ago, I think, is the way it seems. And this meeting that has been low-key, now information coming out in media, but not a lot of details. Nevertheless, Trudeau dining with Trump tonight, and it also makes me wonder. It's just been within the last few days that we've seen Kevin O'Leary on CNN talking about these proposed tariffs, which he says, fat chance, never going to happen. The impact would be devastating for Canada and would be damaging overall to the United States as well. He says, no way, not going to happen, even though people are talking about it extensively. I'm not so sure. As I say, this administration, this new Trump administration coming in, it feels different. I've been saying that for months now. But O'Leary on CNN, in this interview that has really gone viral, he suggests that Pierre Poilievre, leader of the official opposition, conservative, should fly down to Mar-a-Lago and meet with Trump because Trudeau is, in his words, irrelevant. Isn't that interesting? And now what's happening? Well, yesterday, Poilievre was asked about that in a media scrum on Parliament Hill, and he said, well, I'm not doing that. I haven't been invited. And now, tonight, we have Trudeau landing where? In Florida to meet with Trump, to do exactly what Kevin O'Leary suggested Poilievre should do in the absence of Trudeau, because O'Leary says Trudeau is irrelevant. But I think that maybe this is one-upsmanship, because I'm seeing pro-conservative influencers, online podcasters, streamers, they've been running pretty heavily with this O'Leary clip. And we know Justin Trudeau is trying to recover in the polls. Here's the clip of O'Leary on CNN, and you can make your assessment
Trudeau is at the end of his time. It's a parliamentary system. He's hated by his own people. He's got a few months left. Trump will not be negotiating with him. He's gone. This is like the end of the parliamentary system, like Britain. A few months ago, they whacked their PM. Trudeau he's irrelevant. So now Trump should actually bring down the prime minister in waiting, a guy named Pierre Poilievre. He's much more in sync with Trump. He's going to lift the ban on pipelines, eradicate no more carbon tax, and investing back in Canada. People want to invest there. And he's concerned about the border, concerned about fentanyl. He should go down to Mar-a-Lago now. Trudeau, irrelevant. Doesn't matter.
What does any of this have to do with starting a trade war? Like, why can't you develop relationships with our allies? It's not a trade war when you get in sync with these two economies. There's no way on earth we're talking about water, paper, power, cars, gas, oil, all coming from Canada. Massive trading partnership. No chance in hell there'll be a tariff.
Just finish the sentence. No chance because it would be damaging, or
because
no
it's
chance?
A bad idea.
No, I just want him to finish his idea.
A 25% tariff would devastate both countries. It's not going to happen. But the guy to be negotiating with is not Trudeau. He's a zero right now.
Very interesting. I can't help but feel like O'Leary, like what he did there, it's like it was choreographed. This somehow, I can't imagine that he just went in there and said that on a whim. That was, in my view, some sort of a signal, trying to make something happen. Part of a larger strategy, I would say. It's not just O'Leary speaking on his own. There's more going on behind the scenes than we know. And now tonight, where's Trudeau? Off to Mar-a-Lago. Within days. Responding to it because, and this is just my analysis, my opinion, because he knows that somehow this was going to be a political liability for him. And this was an opportunity for him to make Poilievre look a little bit less important in the wake of the fallout from O'Leary's comments, which have, maybe not with a lot, like in important political spheres online, not with, the political elites, but with just the average Canadian who is really paying attention to politics, following this stuff. Yeah, I'd say this O'Leary clip was having a real impact. Now, and just a side note, I think it's hilarious. Pierre Poilievre doesn't do half bad for a guy who has a name that no one can pronounce. Did you hear how O'Leary pronounced it? It was like Poilievre or whatever it is, but so many people just get it just straight up plain wrong. It makes me laugh. And yet and yet Poilievre is leading in the polls. A politician with a name no one can pronounce. Well, a few people can, but it's like, I don't know, that there should be some sort of a commercial out there that the Conservatives run to get people to pronounce his name correctly. I think it's funny. Anyway, Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland being asked about the situation with Trump and the proposed 25% tariffs today. We've got that clip for you here. Let's go to Freeland now. Here she is in this news conference.
Canada has learned that all the RCMP units or programs in eastern Quebec,
a lot of this hinging on
25% of their resources,
border security, according to Trump.
Can you give a rough estimate of how many more agents will be assigned to border protection?
Thank you for the question. Border security is a priority for our government.
And let me just explain, in case you haven't clued into this part of it yet or haven't been subjected to the information so you don't understand. Trump is saying one of the main reasons he's looking at a 25% tariff is because he wants Canada to secure the border, the northern border with the United States, the Canada-U.S. border. Because we're at a place now where we have so much immigration, uncontrolled immigration, with people coming in who represent possible terrorism threats and other security issues for the United States. He's saying, deal with it. You have to deal with this, or I'm imposing a 25% tariff across the board.
And we recognize how absolutely important it is. Canadians have the right to control who comes into Canada and to control who doesn't. And that means we have to make the necessary investments to keep ensuring that our border is secure. Our government is committed to doing that. Oh, je m'excuse. Nous comprenons l'importance.
Hang on, she's doing French. We'll zip past it because there's a follow-up to this. So, again, details sketchy right now on this meeting down in Florida. We'll stick with this because there's an important follow-up coming up, I believe. My apologies to our American friends who are not used to bilingualism.
Nous comprenons qu'il y a partout au monde des défis en ce qui concerne les frontières.
Just nod.
Nous savons que c'est important
Makes it look like you know, you understand.
de faire les investissements
Oh, yes.
nécessaires pour contrôler notre frontière. On fait cela et on va continuer de faire cela.
Here's the
Jeff Gray from the Globe and Mail. My question is also for the Deputy Prime Minister, so if you want to step back up onto the platform, that'd be great. I wanted to ask about trade. In our paper this morning, a senior Mexican official called this idea of booting Mexico out of what I'm going to call NAFTA. It called it a betrayal. Can you tell us definitively, does Canada actually want to pursue a bilateral trade deal with the United States instead of a trilateral deal that includes Mexico?
The Prime Minister has been very clear on this. So let me repeat what he said really, really clearly when I was standing beside him on Thursday. Canada today has a North American trade deal that works for all three of our countries. And it is a trade deal that was negotiated by President-elect Donald Trump, which is a further guarantee for all of us. Canada's first preference and the best outcome for Canada is to maintain that foundational trade agreement. We also recognize that there are some challenges with Mexico's position when it comes to China. And I have heard Canadian business leaders and Canadian union leaders talk to me about the concerns they have. The concerns that Mexico can be a backdoor for Chinese investment, for Chinese goods that are produced through an intentional policy of Chinese overcapacity that hurts our workers. It hurts people like those great workers in Thunder Bay that we've been talking about. So Canada has been clear about that. We've been clear about that with all of our partners in the NAFTA trade agreement. Thanks.
And just to pick up on that point then for my follow-up question, which is, can you tell us more about what evidence you've actually seen that China is actually currently used a sort of future tense there, but is there evidence that China is using Mexico's auto industry currently as a backdoor to get around and into NAFTA?
I would like to look at it from a positive perspective and from the perspective of the opportunity that all three NAFTA countries have to take a clear and aligned position when it comes to China. That is what Canada has very intentionally done. We recognize that Chinese overcapacity is a problem for Canada. It is just not fair to ask Canadian workers to compete against products that are made with labor standards that do not meet our level, with environmental standards that don't meet Canada's level. Our workers can't do it. And we know that China has an intentional economic policy of oversupply. And that is why Canada has introduced 100% tariffs on EVs, 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. We think that today there is an opportunity for all of the NAFTA countries to work together to have a fully aligned policy on China to protect all of our workers and to ensure that we are supporting each other in this really important effort. That is what Canada is doing, and I think that there are some real opportunities to work together on that. Thanks.
Sean O'Shea with Global News. I too have a question for the Deputy Prime Minister. Deputy, I'm wondering if your government is willing to expand the eligibility of who can get the $250 rebate that your government is proposing to send out, and as the NDP has been asking.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
There's the next issue for tonight.
We put forward a measure to support hardworking Canadians. We know Canadians have been through a lot. We've been through some really challenging times, and our government put forward a measure that would put some money back in the pockets of hardworking Canadians. The reality, though, is we are a minority in Parliament, and so we put forward a measure and we sought the support of opposition parties for this really positive measure. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that support. We're going to continue to work with all members of Parliament to support hardworking Canadians, to support Canadians with their affordability challenges.
And then just as a follow-up to that, with respect to HST and GST rebates or pauses on charges, things like a $1,000 bottle of champagne or a $950 Sony PlayStation 5, those are exempted from your plan, or included in your plan. I'm wondering why somebody would be able to get an exemption from paying GST on that when other items that might be more important to them would not be exempt.
Yeah, it's a very good question. In putting together the list, we looked at two things. First of all, what were the items that would really help Canadian families over the holidays to afford the things they need and maybe to save a little bit of money for the things that they want? We know that our governments can't control the price at the checkout, but we can help put a little bit more money back in the pockets of Canadians so that they can afford what they need, save a little money for what they want. And that's why we included things like diapers, car seats, children's winter clothes, prepared foods at grocery stores. I've heard from so many working moms that being able to pick up prepared food at the end of the day, being able to afford that rotisserie chicken is a real gift. So that was the thinking behind the list. We also had to be practical. So we had to look at what were the goods that practically we could do this for, what were the goods that were defined in the tax code. And so that's the thinking behind what was chosen in the list. Thanks.
It may look the logic. I'd like to direct my question to the Deputy Prime Minister. The technology company Tencent reportedly has deep ties with the Chinese Communist Party. Does its investment in Canadian fintech Neo raise national security concerns at all? What is the government doing to address this?
Yeah, thank you very much. When it comes to China, we are concerned about China's intentional policy of overcapacity, what that does to our workers, what that does to our core industries. We also have security concerns. And that is why our government has been taking a more rigorous approach than any previous government with looking at Chinese inward investment into Canada and being sure that it doesn't compromise our own security, it doesn't compromise the security and resilience of our supply chains. And this is more important today than ever because a strength that Canada brings to all of our partnerships in the world is being able to provide our partners, our allies, with secure and resilient supply chains in things like critical minerals and metals, rare earths, in commodities and products that for too long we have all been uniquely dependent on and vulnerable to China. So that's why our government is taking a more rigorous approach when it comes to Chinese inward investment than any previous Canadian government.
Right, and a question on trade negotiations. The digital services tax keeps coming up as an irritant in relations with the US. Even Ambassador Cohen has said it's something that the Biden administration would have a big fight over. Would that be something Canada could put on the table in trade negotiations?
So when it comes to the DST, Canada's position is really simple. I work for Canadians. My job is to defend our national interest in the world. And the reality is many of our allies, the UK, France, Italy, currently have a digital services tax in place. They are using that tax to collect revenue to make necessary investments in their own countries, investments in things like public transit. We know our country needs investment. We know it costs money, and Canada will not accept not being on a level playing field with our partners and allies. That's our position.
Hi, Monique Malima, Bloomberg News. This is also for the Deputy Prime Minister. There's a report that
We're going to go to Trudeau in a moment.
Considering partnering with a major Chinese battery company. Are you concerned about this? And would the government allow any Chinese ownership of the Northvolt battery plant in Quebec?
I'm not going to comment on hypothetical speculation.
Okay. This week, you said that the gridlock in Parliament is making it difficult to present a fall economic statement. Are you looking at other options for delivering the fall economic statement, or will it still be presented as a speech to Parliament?
Thank you for the truly excellent question.
I can't take it anymore. Thank you for the truly excellent question. It's just, okay. There's just something about the way she says that. I'm sorry. I just, it makes me laugh. Can't help it. Respectfully. I think she just does it because she needs a moment to think about how she's going to respond, so it buys her a little bit of time. I think that's the truth. Now, this meeting happening right now in Florida between Trump and Trudeau, it's the first time Trudeau has met with Trump since Trump's re-election. And obviously, tariffs will be at the top of the agenda. Whatever that agenda may include, this is the issue. Trade, tariffs, the renegotiation of USMCA. The reporter there referring to it as NAFTA. That's the old name for the North American Free Trade Agreement, USMCA, United States, Mexico, Canada trade agreement. The thing is, Canada's trade with the United States, huge. Just oil and gas alone annually right now, worth $103 billion a year. Transportation equipment, $73 billion. Primary metals, steel for manufacturing, $35 billion a year. Chemical industry, over $30 billion a year. Food products, agriculture, processed foods, over $29 billion. Machinery production, $22 billion. And then products produced from petroleum and coal, on top of the oil and gas, just the raw product, the raw commodity that's traded, petroleum and coal products worth $15 billion a year. Wood, we're talking about softwood lumber, $11 billion a year. And then you have plastics and rubber products, a lot of them produced right in this neck of the woods. Sarnia, Ontario, the capital of that kind of production in Canada, right on the U.S. border, $10 billion a year. And then you've got the pulp and paper industry, paper alone, $9 billion a year. It's pretty clear that what we're talking about here is massive in scale. Last year, the U.S. imported $614 billion worth of Canadian goods. And it's a two-way street. We import a lot from the U.S. as well. But our relationship, it goes back a long way since the foundings of both countries. And as I say, we're not just trading partners. We have been like family. Not to say that families don't have disagreements. We certainly do. But this, again, it feels different. If anybody out there is thinking Trump doesn't mean it, I think they should think again, because I think he does. And as much as Trump has a lot of fans in Canada, especially in sort of conservative circles, if you want to call it that, I think we need to be realistic here. Trump is no fan of Trudeau. Trump, I don't think he cares. I've seen his facial expressions. I've listened to the tone of his voice in the past, even when he was president before. And he's talked about tariffs on Canada. He's talked about Canada's failure to live up to its spending commitments to NATO, not hitting the target 2% of GDP. And I remember one news conference in particular where Trump said, they can pay. The Canadians, they have lots of money. And that's exactly what he said. That stuck in my mind. It's just embedded in there. I never came out because of that. Wow, he really ultimately does not care. He just wants what he wants. Let's take a little break. I'm going to come back on the other side. We're going to go to Justin Trudeau on the other side. Stay with me.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
As I indicated, there was no warning about this trip at all. The way people found out about it today was just an observation of where Trudeau's plane was and his flight plan. And as a result of that, some hardworking reporters out there started to ask some questions, figured out where he was going, put two and two together, and tonight we've tracked Justin Trudeau all the way down to Mar-a-Lago. Now, earlier today, he was in Prince Edward Island. This was for the announcement of a school lunch program or something like that, which I guess pretty important to people out in PEI one way or another. But again, asked about a lot of these issues in this scrum, this media scrum during the day, this news conference. And again, no mention of going down to actually meet Trump. But we're going to run some of this before we move on. And we're going to also get to this vote in the House of Commons overnight. But first, here's Trudeau being asked about the situation with Trump and the tariffs. And
he voted against a 15% tax break.
Talking about Polyev right now.
On restaurants, on clothes for kids, on toys. He loves to talk about how Canadians are struggling, but he actually actively blocks everything that is designed to help them and support them, get them through it, because he doesn't want Canadians to feel better about this country. He wants them to feel worse because he figures that's the only way maybe he gets elected. Well, a politician putting his own interests ahead of the interests of Canadians is not what Canadians want to see. And in regards to our working relationship with President Trump, President-elect Trump, we were able to protect great jobs in Canada by working with President Trump on renegotiating NAFTA in ways that secured our economy for decades to come. We rolled up our sleeves, we created growth across both sides of the border, continue to work constructively and responsibly for the win-win that is the Canada-US relationship. And I look forward to having lots of great conversations with President-elect Trump as we move forward on standing up for good jobs on both sides of the border.
But doesn't mention anything about the meeting tonight.
Je trouve ça étonnant.
Okay, we'll pull out for a moment. So okay, here we go. Coming back.
At a time where we're seeing huge geopolitical challenges, the rise of authoritarian countries directly trying to undermine Canada and our democracy, Pierre Poilievre refuses to take the top secret briefings that our intelligence services want to give him so he can protect his party and he can protect Canadians. He will not get the necessary security clearances to keep Canadians safe.
He is a slick politician, man, I'll tell you that.
He puts his own personal interests and political advantages ahead of the well-being of Canadians. So every time Pierre Poilievre talks about safety, security, keeping Canadians safe, he's demonstrating he doesn't actually care about that because he will not get the security clearance and briefings that every other leader in the House of Commons has.
I want to know what he knows.
That as a government we said, you know what?
About this foreign interference. I want to know what he knows. What has he seen in those secret documents?
And to know the facts of the threats that Canada is under. And the leader of the Bloc, and the leader of the NDP, and the leader of the Green Party.
He's got something up his sleeve.
The responsible thing and are contributing in our public debates on public safety and security.
He's going to pull out that ace at some point.
What those real threats are. And Pierre Poilievre would rather cover his ears and go la 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 and not listen to our security agencies.
Spoken like a true statesman.
Canadians safe. That's not leadership. It's not responsible leadership. It's inexplicable.
Prochaine question.
You'd rather go la 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 la.
Avec plaisir.
Okay, French again. I thought that was funny. Okay, let's go back for a little bit more. He made me laugh. First Freeland, now Trudeau. They're both making me laugh. I need a good laugh.
That is really important to understand is that Donald Trump, when he makes statements like that, he plans on carrying them out. There's no question about it.
Yep.
Our responsibility is to point out
At least
that
he understands.
in this way he would be actually not just harming Canadians who work so well with the United States, he'd actually be raising prices for American citizens as well, and hurting American industry and businesses. But there are ways for us to work together to demonstrate, as we did years before, that we can do things together. We can create opportunities and growth and good jobs on both sides of the border by being the partners and allies we've been for decades. What it requires is, first of all, a Team Canada approach, which we put together last time, where we started putting together the Team Canada approach earlier this year, where premiers, where labor leaders, where business leaders all come together to demonstrate that things go best for the United States when things go well at the Canada-US border and things go well working together. So we're going to work together to meet some of the concerns and respond to some of the issues, but ultimately it is through lots of constructive, real conversations with President Trump that I'm going to have that will keep us moving forward on the right track for all Canadians.
Yeah, like right now, tonight. Tell us about that. Not. No details, man. Makes me wonder why. Why didn't he mention this trip?
Or the one that will be coming over.
Okay, that's enough. We're done with this. Why? Why so secretive? That's the question. Politics being played there. Not announcing this trip, keeping it low key. The whole thing with O'Leary. What's your assessment? I'm going to look in the chat. Why do you guys think this trip to Mar-a-Lago tonight was secret and only being revealed now through media figuring out where his plane went? I wonder, anybody have any thoughts on this? Why? Why? I do not know why. I think maybe what we're talking about here is politics being played. So, O'Leary, remember, you have to remember, O'Leary is an actual conservative. Ran at one time for the leadership of the Conservative Party. Don't lose sight of that. Then he appears on CNN. He says that Poilievre should just fly on down to Mar-a-Lago. Does Poilievre know that O'Leary is going to say that? I don't know. It seems like it's somehow choreographed. But then yesterday, when Poilievre met with reporters on Parliament Hill for his news conference, he was asked by a reporter if he was planning to do that, or if he would do that. And it was right at the end, last question, and he just let the question roll off, dismissed it, saying, I haven't been invited, so I'm not going to do that. And then he just walked away, as if to just, take the question in a very offhanded way, but was asked the question, which was inevitable because that clip got so much traction on social media. Now today, we see Trudeau flying down there. Now, I'm not suggesting at all that O'Leary is in league with Trudeau. On the contrary, it seems like he was setting something up to help Poilievre and to prop him up somehow as an alternative to Trudeau, who truly has the upper hand and the credibility to usurp the credibility, authority, the strength, the political strength that even comes from the Prime Minister's office, regardless of who is in it, and to transfer that, at least in perception, to Poilievre. And if Poilievre could capitalize on it in some way, sometimes even just throwing a trial balloon out there like that, sometimes that becomes reality. I remember when Trump, in the first time he ran for president, there was talk about the U.S. relationship with Mexico and the wall. And I remember Hillary Clinton criticizing Trump, saying he is not qualified to be president, that he doesn't have the qualities, that he simply isn't presidential material, that he isn't presidential-like. And then within days of those critical remarks being made, he ended up in Mexico and actually met with the president of Mexico. And it was televised, broadcast, high profile. It was just one of many events at that time that just went in Trump's favor. It was one of the things that really propelled him to the presidency, because that meeting at that time with the president of Mexico made Trump look presidential. And this is before, of course, he was ever elected president. It took the wind out of Hillary Clinton's sails, and all she could say at the time was, "That's not how you do it." Well, clearly it was how you do it, and it really paid off big for Trump. It really accelerated the forward momentum his campaign had at the time. It's almost like Kevin O'Leary on that CNN panel had that in mind when he mentioned this, or suggested that Poilievre should go meet with Trump, sort of like flipping the script and putting Poilievre in Trump's place, going down to meet with the president. But now Trudeau, he has a slick campaign team. I've told you before, don't count him out. As much as I think we're going to the polls, and as much as I think he's going to lose the next election, don't count him out. They are not giving up. This is an indication of that, because you can see that it's just clear as day to me that this is a strictly political move. Now, as I sit here assessing further on the fly, why didn't he mention it during the news conference today? Why wasn't this telegraphed to the public? Because he doesn't want it to appear to be political. Plausible political deniability. Keep it low key, like he's not grandstanding at all. He's just the prime minister. He's just flying down there because he can. He'll capitalize on this later, and he may even be asked by reporters in the days ahead, over the weekend even, I would say, why didn't you tell people that you were going to meet President Trump? Well, because I just called him up and said, would it be okay if I just flew on down there for the weekend to Mar-a-Lago? And Trump said yes, which then makes him look like he has lots of clout, the ability to just make a phone call, meet with Trump. We'll have to see how it goes over the next couple of days and see if there's any explanation that comes from Trudeau himself. But I think that this question will be asked, and as much as the meeting is important, so too are the circumstances surrounding it, because it will give us some insight into the campaign tactics that I think are likely to follow as we head toward the next federal election in Canada. A lot of people hoping overnight that this vote on the GST sales tax holiday break that Trudeau came up with, this scheme, that might lead to some sort of a non-confidence vote that would topple the government. However, what did we see overnight? We saw Jagmeet Singh continue to support Justin Trudeau and his minority government. Without the support of the NDP in a minority government situation, the Trudeau Liberals would fall. But they have not. Now, what happened overnight with that HST holiday break? It passed, as I told you it would. And that's not because I'm clairvoyant. It's simply because of the numbers. And we knew the NDP was going to support it. We knew the Liberals would all vote in favor of it. We knew the Conservatives were going to vote against it. And that is exactly what happened. The process continued late into the night last night. Now, the approval, the vote in favor of, still needs to be, this whole thing still needs to be approved by the Senate so that it can receive royal assent and then fast-tracked, and the tax break will take effect within the next couple of weeks. Now, as for that $250 check, that still needs to be dealt with. There has not been formal legislation passed for that. That still is to come, but from everything we're seeing, that's going to happen as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, let me take another quick break here. We're going to move on. We've got a bunch of other news to cover tonight. Before we get into, well, we're just going to get into the other top news of the day when we come back on the other side.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
I am back, and we also have really violent protests erupting tonight in Georgia. And why? Same issue that fueled the situation in Ukraine right now. Georgia, the people there voting, pushing, hoping for more integration with the European Union. And Putin doesn't like it. And he has a pretty tight hold on Georgia. So over the past couple of days, Georgia has been the epicenter, really, of significant political unrest, protests erupting in the capital. And the catalyst for these demonstrations appears to be the Georgian Dream Party's announcement to suspend talks on European Union accession and reject budgetary grants from the EU until 2028. People are not happy to hear that. It's not what they want. So this decision has sparked outrage among many Georgians who are strong proponents of EU integration, seeing it as a pathway to economic growth and democratic reform. We have footage from the capital of Georgia. Let's go there, show you what is happening on the streets. Here we go. All right, hang on. Here's, I believe we are getting this from Fox News. So let me give them credit, and here we go. Oh, we are lagging, are we? One moment. Let's re-queue, shall we? Okay, we lost our tab. That's what happened. All right, we can show you this massive protest here. Another source. Sorry, we had a little bit of an internet glitch there. But we're coming back with this. This gives you a sense of the size of the protests happening in Georgia. Now, it's exactly this kind of thing that led to the Maidan massacre. Protesters were shot in Ukraine, 2014. Same issue. Protests. Replay, same issue. And similar in Moldova. Hard for people here in Canada and the US, I would say, to relate. It's not an issue we're dealing with here. We've never had to deal with it like they have and continue to have to deal with it. And if you don't think we're in a third world war, think again. I mean, look at what's going on here tonight. We have this reemergence or escalation again of this conflict in Syria, which has been a hotbed of conflict for many years now. Russia propping up the Assad regime there. You have Ukraine, you have Gaza, those clearly connected, if not by any other means, by the shipping routes where the Houthis in Yemen are being used as a Russian proxy and an Iranian proxy to control shipping all down through into the Middle East via the Suez Canal. Yemen there, a choke point. You have China and the Uyghur situation. You have Russia using soldiers, mercenaries, even in parts of Africa in ways that people are not aware. You have NATO facing off in a way with Russia. And you have Vladimir Putin threatening to nuke us, rattling that nuclear saber again and again. How serious is it? You can decide for yourself. Worries me when I see all of this fear-mongering, I would say, going on online. All this talk about hypersonic missiles, nuclear capable, and the detonation of one, an experimental weapon used on actual people in Ukraine. You have that. Does he mean it? My guess is he wouldn't use a nuke, certainly not before Trump takes office. The hope on the Russian side is that Donald Trump will come in and pull the rug out from underneath Ukraine, cut off all funding and military support, leaving Ukraine defenseless so that Russia can then just roll right in and take the rest of the country that we're told they don't want, but clearly want to take. And yet, at the same time, we're hearing all this rhetoric about escalation and how Putin is tired of waiting. His patience has run out, so he's just going to wreck the country now. And at the United Nations, during that emergency session this week, I think we actually saw Dmitry Polyansky, the Russian ambassador to the UN, essentially indicate that Russia has declared war on the West. Not quite formally, but the language was pretty clear, indicating that you've made your choice. That's the words directed at the West. Dangerous talk. Dangerous. And all that, well, we see that this 39-year-old world-famous Russian ballet dancer, Vladimir Shklyarov, a Putin critic, suddenly dead at the age of 39. Cause of death? I thought when I first saw this today that it was something of a meme or a joke. No. This 39-year-old world-famous dancer, a critic of President Vladimir Putin, died because he literally fell out of a window, a fifth-story window. I'm not making this up. Incredibly talented. And as I say, world famous, but now no longer with us. Now, we're told he was taking pain medication because he was having trouble with his back. But critic of Putin falls out a window, 39 years old. What more do I have to say? If you can't clue in, do you care about freedom? Do you care? I do. I care about freedom. And I'm not afraid. Not at all. I'm not fearful. I mean, I am, but I'm not. The right word is concerned, but I'm not afraid. Maybe I should be, but I think the time, during the convoy, during the pandemic, I wasn't afraid then either. Man, I was determined to fight for freedom, just as I am right now, too. And yet I see so many people fearful. Do you want to find out if he's bluffing? Well, I don't know, man. Not really. But do you care about how you live in the future? Do you care? I do. And then during the pandemic, people paid lip service to things by saying things like, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. But let somebody threaten us because they've lost trust in Justin Trudeau. They cheer on the guy who wants to nuke us. I don't get it. I don't care who it is that's threatening to nuke us. I'm not down with that, so I'm against it. Yeah, I'm against the use of nuclear weapons, especially when they might be used against us, directly or indirectly. Either way, I'm not cool with it. So I'm opposed. Okay, that's how I vote. I vote no to the use of nuclear weapons, and certainly no to nuclear Armageddon. I'm not down with it. Nope. I say no. So in Georgia, they want Putin gone. They want to join the EU. I say let the people decide. That's freedom. Protesters gathered there in front of the Parliament building, demanding the government reverse its decision to delay all of this delay this process until 2028. The protests have been marked by both peaceful assemblies and, as you can see, moments of tension. I know they used water cannons on the protesters there over the last 24 hours. Reports indicate that the crowds attempted to breach the gates of Parliament. And while I'm also not down with violence, and I don't like to see that kind of activity, and I certainly wouldn't want to see it here in Canada, I think the Freedom Convoy, in many respects, sort of set the bar and the standard for peaceful protests to show that they can be effective. So the president of Georgia has publicly called for police to stop using force against the citizens, and this highlights the divide between the government's actions and public sentiment. And the clashes there reportedly continued overnight, and we've shown you video where the use of police force is front and center. As I say, water cannons used, police in riot gear. The EU, along with other international observers like the United States and the UK, have shown concern over the situation, emphasizing the importance of peaceful dialogue and the continuation of Georgia's Euro-Atlantic integration path. And now you've got this whole situation in Syria as well, and the pro-Russian, pro-Assad forces essentially just retreating, running right out of Aleppo tonight. I think it took something like 5 years for the Russian-backed government of Assad to assume control there, but it's taken only a couple of days for Aleppo for them to lose control. Although I don't know if that's really an accurate assessment, because the conflict there has been going on for a long time. There was sort of a cessation of hostilities there for a while, but things have ramped back up. I can't help but think, though, that the actions there for the last 2 days have got to be related to Vladimir Putin's nuclear saber rattling at escalations in the Ukraine conflict. And I don't know that Russia is really in a position right now to send any more aid to Syria. They're spread pretty thin in Ukraine as it is. I also see some, I would say it's probably propaganda online, where there are videos trying to suggest that these rebels have been trained and armed by Ukraine, these rebels in Syria, which makes no sense to me, because Ukraine itself is spread awfully thin. I don't think they can afford to send military resources, either human or otherwise, to another country to participate in another conflict. I don't buy it. Makes no sense whatsoever. Just to backtrack a little bit, as a result of last night's vote in the House on this plan to give people a sales tax holiday, there was a confrontation between New Democratic MPs and I believe Michael Barrett, Conservative. They crossed the floor after the session was completed, and they started to badger him. We have video of it, and it's to say the least colorful. Let's cue this up. I'm going to show you what happened. You can decide who's in the right, who's in the wrong, or assess it any way you want, really. But I think it's pretty self-explanatory, considering that Michael Barrett is just sitting in his seat, his assigned seat, when he's approached. Here's how it went down.
Not her. Step right back.
We can film now.
Yeah, but you guys don't need to be standing over yelling at him. He came over and sat down.
Guys,
look in the mirror. Look in the mirror.
Why? And he's taking
Yeah.
this in the house. He is taping
Yeah.
this in the house.
I can.
No.
That's the House Speaker there.
That's fine. You can record. It's all fine.
He's sitting down.
You're here for another month and you're gone. So you guys are at his seat. This is my seat. You're right. This is his own seat. And they're telling Right.
He is sitting down.
They're not worth it. They're not worth
You're here for another month and you're gone. You guys are at his seat.
So ridiculous. Not.
Yeah. So, what do you think of that? Oh man. Now, I know, everybody's still talking about Ukraine. Everybody's worried that we're going to get nuked. I'm not afraid. We're not there yet. So I'm still going to sleep tonight. Maybe with one eye open. But we're not quite there yet, and it seems things are changing. We have now Zelensky in an interview indicating that he is willing to sit down, talk about giving up some territory in exchange for peace. But it has to happen in a particular way. Essentially, he has to be invited to the table, he says. Now, I have to say, I don't think that this is likely to happen in that way, because Zelensky's saying that he wants the protection of being under the NATO umbrella as part of the deal, and there ain't no way at this point that Putin will accept that. Trump's going to have a tough time, a very tough time indeed. Let's play the interview. This is going viral. And here he is explaining his position right now. I'd say it's hopeful.
To the focus on Ukraine from media. So it's important to be very understandable what's going on in Ukraine abroad, to be understandable in UK because you are, and the United States because the most important are our partners, of course, including EU partners. So first of all, I think you understand our war because you said that you are from the very beginning, from 2014. Mm-hmm. Yes, but it's difficult to discuss the level of moral in Ukraine of our soldiers. It depends on a lot of different issues. I think we are, of course, long war. Of course, it's understandable. Some people are tired. Some people hate Russians, and they will be to the end of this war. It's very understandable because some fathers, some mothers, they just lost their families, destroyed houses and children. Mm-hmm. And it's understandable. But you said about it that am I afraid that we can lose the war? So from the very beginning of this war, let's be very honest. From the very beginning of the second part, full-scale war, yes, we're speaking about what was almost 3 years ago. Everybody was sure in the world that we will lose. We have to be very honest when we speak with the people, because we didn't have any huge support, real support. We've been not weaponized, yes, if it's right word, weaponized, weaponry, yes, like Russians. We didn't have so many people, we didn't have such big army, and but we had our attitude to ourselves, first of all. Mm-hmm. And that I always shared with everybody that the most important our weapon, it's our people. And to lose our people, it doesn't matter what weapon we will have, what kind of technologies and etc. It's nothing. Yes, really, it's nothing if you compare with our people. That's why we can't lose our people. And that's why if I'm afraid to lose our people, because the people are the most important, because everything is this war for independence of the people, not of the land, of the people, because people, it's really a nation. A nation has land and etc. and etc. The land is very important. It's a part of your, this of identity. But the people are the most important. I afraid to lose. Yes, if we will be alone, we will lose. It's understandable. We will lose, but it doesn't mean that we will not. That we will lose our faith, yes, in Ukraine, and it doesn't mean that we will lose everything. Yes, we can lose the battle. We can lose big battle. We can lose like it was at the very beginning of the war, but not to lose ourselves and Ukraine, to lose some territories, yes, like it was at the very beginning, but then to deoccupy them.
Yeah.
And for today is, of course, dangerous moment because we could organize unity in Europe and the United States, be together around us. And it was after full-scale invasion of Russia. And now a lot of, disappointments in the world and in Europe, a lot of different things which can divide. For example, which can divide. I don't want just to answer on one question and to answer on many questions in one answer. So you can stop me in any time. So am I afraid? I'm afraid to lose the unity in the world. If we will lose this, I'm afraid we can lose everything.
Yes.
This is the most dangerous thing.
And do you believe that we're reaching that point, that you are losing unity with the world?
I'm not sure that we are very close to this, really. I think that more dangerous thing than just words of Putin, for example, words which he uses to escalate everything, that even these words, even after the full-scale invasion, after these years, even after all the things, when Ukraine showed that it can stay and it can fight against all his imperial narratives, even after that, sometimes when he speaks about something, some leaders in the world are afraid. When they're afraid, they begin to communicate with their societies. When they begin to communicate with their societies, they divide their societies. Then they communicate with other leaders and divide the unity in Europe. And of course, Putin understands and feels it like an animal, but he's an animal, real animal, without any, those human values which we share. So, he just feels it like a blood. So he feels that they're not strong. He feels that he can increase a little bit with attacking missiles, new kind missiles, and to see the reaction.
Yeah, and lowering the use of nuclear
weapons. Yes, of course, he will say about nuclear. From the very beginning of the war, he will say about nuclear each time, of course, because he has to find new steps of his communication. For him, it's very important. It's difficult in English to answer on this.
Tell me, is it unhelpful then when people like the German Chancellor ring President Putin for a chat?
I had just conversation with Chancellor 1 hour ago by phone. Yes, of course we need to meet and we will have meeting. I can't share the date, but they helped a lot after the United States, the biggest support, including military support, Chancellor gave.
Yeah.
It means that people of Germany, they gave, of course. So we are very thankful to that. I said to him, yes, it was not a surprise for me. Yes, he communicated that he wants to speak, to understand what Putin's thinking about, and etc. But I said to him that I'm not supporting this idea because he will open this. This new page. How to say it? No, скриньку Pandora, так? Yes, Pandora's box here. You will open Pandora's box because there are some leaders, they really want to be leaders in this case.
Yeah.
They still want to be not the leaders of their country. They still want to be political leaders. You know, when they are on the first page of newspapers, and it says that everybody speak about them, that they can communicate with Putin and etc. But it's not about it. I mean, that's people and leaders have at least understand Putin. He thinks that we are the part of Russia. Nobody, even during this war, could change his opinion and his mind. That's why he thinks that this is the part of his home, that these people are wrong, these really Russian people. He thinks about it. That's why his attitude to us like an enemy. That's why he thinks that this is a part of Russia, and he wants to destroy everything Ukraine, which in Ukraine connects with Ukraine and Ukrainians. That's why he will go to the end with this idea, horrible idea, just Hitler's idea. It's not about, it sounds very loud that he's Hitler. No, he is real. He has the same, that only one nation world. The priority of one nation. This is the same method, and he uses the same steps, the same narratives, and the same information or disinformation in this case. That's why don't open this box of Pandora's box. You don't open it, because if you open, other leaders will talk with him just to be on the paper, just to be, in newspapers, to show that we can manage it with Putin. No, you can't manage with the killer if you are, if you're weak. So you can't do it. For him, you are nothing. He respects only the power. And you have to be very strong. And Ukraine has to be very strong in any future kind of negotiations. When we speak, a lot of journalists and a lot of political leaders, they speak. So what kind of negotiations can be? Not what circumstances. First of all, circumstances in which Ukraine is strong. And after that, doesn't matter what city, what country, what we will speak about, with whom of leaders, and etc. We have to be at the same level. It's minimum, really. We have to be stronger than him, but we have to be very strong, if even at the same level, with unity of the partners. And they have to talk with us one voice policy, not other way, one voice policy. If we speak with Putin, so with a plan, not to give him a chance to give us ultimatum. He can't give us ultimatum, because he's a killer and he's a terrorist and he's alone, really alone, to my mind. And that's why I said I have to answer in Ukrainian. It will be shorter.
Right now, but you're doing very excellent. Tell me, what do you think about Donald Trump? He's obviously going to be the next president. Can you do business with him, do you think? Are you talking?
We have to work with the new president, and we have to work with America, first of all, with the United States, the biggest donator, the biggest supporter. Yeah, so for us, it's very important. Of course, for us, it's very important bipartisan support, Republicans and Democrats. We don't want to lose Democrats or Republicans. We have a lot of voices from both parties which are on our side, and I'm thankful to them very much. And of course, we will work with Trump. I want to work with him directly, because there are different voices from people around him. And that's why we need not to give anybody around to destroy our communication. It will be not helpful and will be destructive. And we have to try to find the new model, maybe some model. I want to share with him ideas, and I want to hear from him, his ideas.
Have you spoken to him yet?
No, we've spoken with him about, basically in September when I was in New York, we had conversation. It was very warm, good, constructive, but it was mostly basically not with the very, small details, but with Putin, you can't be, without details. It's important, but it was very good meeting, and it was important first step. Now we have to prepare some meetings. I don't know how many we will have, but until we will have the real, it's very important. Of course, for us, it's very important bipartisan support, Republicans and Democrats. We don't want to lose Democrats or Republicans. We have a lot of voices from both parties which are on our side, and I'm thankful to them very much. And of course, we will work with Trump. I want to work with him directly because there are different voices from people around him, and that's why we need not to give anybody around to destroy our communication. It will be not helpful and will be destructive, and we have to try to find the new model, maybe some model. I want to share with him ideas, and I want to hear from him his ideas.
Have you spoken to him yet?
No, we've spoken with him about, basically in September when I was in New York. We had conversation. It was very warm, good, constructive, but it was mostly basically not with the very, small details, but with Putin, you can't be, without details. It's important, but it was very good meeting, and it was important first step. Now we have to prepare some meetings. I don't know how many we will have, but until we will have the real plan where Ukraine is strong.
So he's appointed General Kellogg as the new special envoy for the area. Do you know him?
I know him, but I think that we didn't have some deep dialogues in the past. My team had connections, and as chief of my staff, he knows also him because as I said, a lot of people who have been on both, branches. It's Berhe. Yeah, different branches, and in both parties they've been with us. So my chief of staff will go with the team. Some team will go to the United States in the closest days, and they will have some meeting there, including special envoy.
Okay.
Yeah. So
there's no detailed plans yet, but is there a basic plan of what you think, President Trump is thinking?
We don't know the details from our plan or future plan of Donald Trump. I'm on President Trump. I said to him some things which I think we have to understand, that who is Putin. The second, that he really wants what he wants. And the sword, that we have to be very strong at what we need to be strong. Then, of course, we have our peace plan. And it was based on peace formula and a lot of things. It's been done, by the way, 100%. All the meetings with dozens of countries, we finished in November. As I said, that the plan will be ready. So the plan is ready. That's very important.
How's it been received? There's not much.
No. It was before our last meeting. We finished with the plan after his meeting with him. But how he received, I think he's thinking about a lot of things. Our team shared some things with his team. I think he got details from the American intelligence, everything which is in through the law, because he doesn't have all the rights until he's not in White House. So I think he's learning the situation now. It's good that he's learning. I know that there are some moments about it. I heard about it. And I think that we need to prepare for some meetings before we will find some common understanding of the situation.
The American media have reported some of the potential scenarios that the future president might consider. Can I just go through a couple of them and see what you think? So one is that the US would continue with military aid. Ukraine would be involved in ceasefire and peace talks, but plans to join NATO would be shelved for a long period of time. Now, what do you think of that little plan?
First of all, what is important? In media, there will be a lot of different plans. And between us, I want to be very honest with you and open. I don't know what is true and what is not true, where it comes from what circles around one president or another president, where from it is going. I know my attitude. Any decisions can't be done without us. That is the first, because it's understandable why we don't want to go deeply further to this, because it will not work. You can't make decisions without Ukrainian people. So as I said, that the most important that the war, it's a tragedy, but it's true that war is here. We know who is Putin. We know our enemy. We know that he will not stop. And if we want to stop and have a just peace, and we want, and better than everybody, we understand how it's difficult to get peace because of the Putin. It's very difficult because he doesn't want. For him, our independence, it's to lose this war. And we have to understand, and Trump has to understand, President Trump has to understand, and his team has to, even if somebody doesn't want to understand in Europe or the United States, everybody have to understand one thing. It's like 2 + 2. It's very simple, that he doesn't want our independence because in this case, he's a loser. One of the part of the independence is security guarantees.
Yes.
NATO, as you said, yes, you are right. Without NATO, it's not real independence for Ukraine, because he will come back. When? I don't know. Look at his age. When? During close 10 years.
And you being part of NATO, is that vitally important too?
I think because we don't have alternative. We spoke about it with a lot of different leaders. I said, so we don't have nuclear weapon, and we gave it only in this context. We gave it because we had the biggest world leaders, countries who guaranteed security for Ukraine. And it doesn't work, and it didn't work, and we lost a lot of things. And now he wants to destroy us because we don't have this weapon. Yes, it's true. We have just to be very open to reality. And that's why, what alternative? I said, everybody think that alternative is only one for today, NATO. Maybe there is other alternative. I don't know. I never saw, I never heard about it. I never heard propositions. For today, I have security guarantees, bilateral. I did it already without a United States, without bilaterally, with each leader, including United States. I mean, but without big umbrella of somebody. Yes, we just did on our bilateral relations. We did it with the United States, UK, EU leaders, a lot of different countries, some of not EU and NATO leaders, like Japan, for example, where there is written weapon support, military support, humanitarian, economic, yes, but it's not NATO. This is not the same. We have already not the same security guarantees. So that's why I think that the leaders have to stop these first pages of newspaper, their political messages, stop to speak that maybe there is some alternative kind of security guarantee. We had Budapest Memorandum, doesn't work. We have bilateral security guarantees. It worked, helping us to be strong, but it doesn't stop Putin.
Okay.
That's why we need something which will stop Putin, which will be preventively stop Putin. What it can be, I don't know. Maybe there is something, I don't know.
Well, one alternative, perhaps, Again, this is reported from the United States. And it's fairly simple, really, is that Ukraine joins NATO, but Russia takes control and keeps the land that it has to date. Would that be a possibility?
Ніхто не пропонував нам бути в НАТО.
No one has offered us to be in NATO with just one part or another part of Ukraine.
Закінчити гарячу стадію.
That's for once.
Fact.
The fact is that it is a solution to stop the hot stage of the war, because we can just give the NATO membership to the part of Ukraine that is under our control.
Факт. Можна було б, ніхто не пропонував.
Yes, it could be possible, but no one offered.
Треба робити.
But the invitation must be given to Ukraine within its internationally recognized border.
Ви не можете давати тільки частині.
You can't give invitation to just one part of a country. Why? Because thus you would recognize that Ukraine is only that territory of Ukraine and the other one is Russia.
Тому я і сказав, юридично ми не маємо права.
So legally, by law, we have no right to recognize the occupied territory as territory of Russia.
І тут не можна помилятись в цьому.
And here we must not make any mistake.
Зупинити гарячу стадію війни.
But if we want to stop the hot stage of the war,
зонтик, амбрелу,
we should take under NATO umbrella the territory of Ukraine that we have under our control.
Швидко. А далі
That's what we need to do fast. And then Ukraine can get back the other part of its territory diplomatically.
Ось що я сказав, що таку пропозицію
So, and this proposal has never been considered by Ukraine because no one has ever offered that to us officially.
Не запропонував.
We can't, by law, recognize our territory, Ukrainian territory, under occupation of Russia as Russian. That is impossible. That is against the constitution of Ukraine.
I understand completely your position. It is interesting, though, because it seems to me you have moved to a point that if you could get your NATO membership, you would have accept that we could be moving into a ceasefire and potential talks, peace talks. And at some point in the future, you would consider diplomatically how to get your land back. That's quite a big step, because you're never going to accept that it's Russia's, but as you say, physically, they will hold it. But it could bring the war to a close.
A lot of different countries proposed a ceasefire. So the question is, ceasefire where? That is the question. The second point is, if we speak ceasefire, guarantees that Putin will not come back.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I commented you about NATO. Yes, NATO immediately the part of Ukraine. And we need it very much. Otherwise, he will come back. Otherwise, how we can go to ceasefire?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, for us, it's very dangerous. That's what I meant.
Can I just ask you this then? We're in this phase of the war that we're in. I think we've agreed it's dangerous and nasty. Firstly, can you tell me, the use of the long-range weapons, which has been, Putin is angry about it, as I think we expected. It took a long time for President Biden to agree to it. Are they being effective now? Are they worth all the arguing that's taking place? In the future, do you want to be able to fire those long-range weapons at any target you so choose?
It's the same like to speak about air defense. Is Patriot effective? Yes. Is it enough to defend all the energy systems? No. Is it okay in some places of our country where Patriot works? Is everything okay with energy? Mostly, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what you need, we need more. Do you have a very concrete number of Patriots you need? Yes. Do you have in Europe, even in Europe, enough systems to equip? Yes. What we need, political will from our partners. The second was discussion was about F-16. It was the same, like with Patriots, not to give Ukraine because it meant to involve NATO countries to the war. The same was with Patriots, the same was with HIMARS, the same was with F-16. And the decision was positive. Again, the same late, very lately. But how F-16 for today work? Very good. Excellent, mostly. We have a very little number of F-16. What they do now, destroyed 7 ballistic 2 nights ago. 7 missiles which went on the infrastructure, civilian infrastructure. Missiles. Yeah.
Cruise missiles.
Cruise missiles. Yeah. So they destroyed it. Yes. But do we need the fleet which completes 128? Yes, we don't have it. And what about our partners? Do they have? Yes, a lot. United States, they have? Yes, a lot. Can they give? Yes. Why they didn't give? I don't know. The third point, long distance weapon. We needed very much long distance weapon at the very beginning when Russia wanted very much to begin offensive. It was counteroffensive from their side. Yes, about 1 year ago, we asked very much to give us because we see them how they are, how they grouped, and we need to use this. And they group very openly because they know that we don't have capabilities to destroy them. We lost people, territories, initiative in some moment before this decision. So is it good decision? Yes. Is it late? Very late. And again, is it enough? Not of course. Not of course. Again, we have the targets, only military targets on the territory of Russia and on the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, where the distance is very big, and we know how many missiles we need, how many long distance systems we need. Everything is already was accepted, everything and written in the victory plan, how to strengthen Ukraine before again any kind of negotiations. Did our partners give us? No. Why? I don't know. But we are thankful. Biden, Starmer, Macron. We are thankful for those decisions that have been done. Even not enough, but it's been done. So,
but as we stand now, there are battlefield losses. The East is proving very difficult. You don't have enough soldiers.
Yeah.
Your own soldiers have told me there aren't enough soldiers. Is there anything that could be given by NATO or the United States to help with that problem, the lack of soldiers? Are there weapon systems that if you had, you need less soldiers?
Yes. Yes.
What
just equip the brigades. When you have soldiers, we need to equip this brigade. Otherwise, you will take the soldiers and move to the brigades, to other brigades, just to equip other brigades which are standing. So you will not have reserves. You will never have enough reserves because it doesn't matter that they are, without anything, they are staying. Somebody asked me, I don't want to tell you the position of some leaders in Europe about mobilization and etc., that you need young and etc. And I said, what do you want? Just you want to die without your weapon? How you want me just to mobilize young guys and said that they don't know where to go, in which brigade, with which weapon that they will fight? A lot of them want, but it's just something not not responsible cases, just to speak about it.
Yes, because we're talking about bringing down the
age.
A
lot of people will talk because if you have the problem, it's with politics. It's always like this. If you have the problem, how to close this gap, how to close this problem? Just you have to create the new problem. So they speak about mobilization, but the real problem with 10 brigades which our partners didn't equip. I asked them very much more than 1 year ago that we need to equip these brigades. We made this solution with United States and with European allies, and for today, totally Europe and the United States totally now equipping 2.5 brigades.
Okay.
For today.
So have they abandoned you then? Why aren't they giving you more weapons?
I don't have. I mean, this is their decision. There are some bureaucracy, some decisions, some they don't think that this is the priority, and etc. It's always the same way during this war. But we are thankful for at least for those things which they gave. I mean, this anyway. This is big support, big support. But anyway, East depends on number of equipped brigades. When you speak about the control situation on the east of Ukraine, it depends only on one thing for today, on these brigades. I'm not speaking about that nobody from from admirals, generals, from EU and United States, nobody fought in such war, and nobody of them fought without jets. They always say they can't understand how we fight. They really say we understand that you can't do real strong offensive missions without fleet, without sky. That's why they always, why they always say you are very heroic soldiers, and etc. One of the reasons they understand that Russia has fleet, you don't have it. Russia have air defense S-400, S-300, you don't have enough. You only defend energy systems or water supplies and some cities, some ports, and etc. You need it. You have less number of these systems. And that's why they say you are heroic soldiers, because we can't understand how they fight, not equipped, how they need to be, and without the sky. So for the East, for today, of course, air defense. Against these aerial bombs and etc. Of course, air defense, and of course, some equipped brigades. But we will do it.
But that is a big failure, because you accept there's only so many men you can have because there's a limit. But the real failure then is the lack of weapons being sent to Ukraine.
У нас обмежена кількість.
Limited number of soldiers. Well, I believe we have a lot of soldiers. But the limitation is that, frankly, we must save as many lives as possible. And if in European or American offices there is an idea that we need to do something differently about the draft age, I want to just ask our partners to do their part of the job, and we will deal with our part of the job.
Is there a potential, anything that you could say to Russia or anything Russia could say to you that was an acceptable peace deal? And would you be prepared to negotiate and talk to President Putin?
He's not ready. He doesn't want to stop the war. It doesn't mean, this for him politically is very good to speak. It's like with the chancellor or with some European leader or with some leaders from Global South, maybe some future talks with President Trump. It's very good for him just to show his society that he's not politically isolated. He's not terrorist. You see? He is not terrorist. You see? A lot of people speak with him. For him, this is important. That's why I'm sure that he's ready for dialogue with some leaders, including Ukraine. Yes? But to talk, just for talk, just for ambitions of Putin, no, I think it's not smart. So we need to be in the position of strong position, and if we will be in strong position, he will hear us. Otherwise, he will just speak. Yes, and this is the first, and to have the steps. This is the second. And the third point, where to speak, on which line. On which line we have to speak. So if he is on the line of full-scale invasion, It's understandable for me. So it meant that he understands that he's isolated, that it's a tragedy mistake, like some global South leaders said, that it's his fatal mistake to begin full-scale war. Even there are some skeptical leaders who never speak about his invasion, occupation, illegal occupation of 2014. They are trying not to speak about it, but they all of them say that his foolish mistake was the full-scale war against Ukraine. So Putin has to understand it. Putin has to recognize it.
I was recently in the Sumy region, and I was talking to one of your soldiers, a commander actually, and he said he pointed out to me, he said it feels like Russia's allies, be it Iran, North Korea, China, are fairly united in support of Russia, but Ukraine's allies appear to be falling apart. Do you feel that as well? I mean, that is a soldier saying.
No. I think it's not a real situation. Our allies more in unity than his allies. Really, we understand that what he has allies, North Korean allies, the most strong for today. I think Iran and North Korea. Iran gave him weapons and licenses for new military plants. It's understandable that they are allies, and they have some position in Middle East, in Syria, and etc. Some common interests in the world. Yes, and North Korea is the new page of this war, that 12,000 of soldiers of North Korean army already against us. So these are his real allies. And in China, so China is, sometimes you don't demonstrate that you are not ally. So sometimes even it's, you don't need to hear that I'm not ally of this terrorist. Some you don't need, you just see what they do. They don't demonstrate that they are not allies. They have a lot of decisions bilateral. They have a lot of solutions. They gave a lot of details for some drones and etc. for Russia, but they didn't give them weapon. This is the difference between China and Iran, China and North Korea. This is the difference. But they are more close to them than not.
Can I ask you this? There's some discussion. Donald Tusk, Poland's prime minister, said we're in a pre-war era. The former head of Britain's spy service says that we're already in a real war. Are we in the beginnings, or are we in a world war being fought through Ukraine?
Yeah, and our partners have to recognize it. Ми всі винні.
We all are in a war, and Europe, I believe, is already in a war.
Це просто зараз є історичний.
And now we've got a historic chance, a strong Ukraine as a historic chance for Europe not to be in a real war with the Russian Federation.
Що Європа не буде роздрібнена перед тим, як
That Europe will not be split before Russia hits one of the NATO countries. That will happen.
Питання в тому, що
The question is only whether he dares to do that or not depends only on Ukraine. I'm sure the war will stop. He has no strength to continue the war.
У нього немає на це сил.
And I think, honestly, the whole world does not either.
У світу, чесно, також. Світ може дати набагато більше і бути.
The world can give much more and be much stronger than Russia, but we don't see that happening in reality.
І тут буде
The
питання.
question is how this war is going to end. We'll see. But I would like Trump to succeed. The Congress, the parties are also important there. And I wish America of the times of Donald Trump to succeed.
Тому я б так сказав, у Америки часу Дональда Трампа вийшло.
And I want them to play one of the most crucial parts. And if at the end of the war Ukraine does not lose,
Якщо ця війна буде виглядати так, що Україна
that would mean that the democracy didn't lose and that freedom didn't lose. And in this case, I think that Putin would not invade Europe and would not attack NATO countries.
вторгнеться в Європу і не завдасть ударів по країнам НАТО. Якщо ж
And if the US and Europe insist together that Ukraine in this war looks like a country forced to peace, that would be unfair. We want peace, but that would be unfair.
виглядала примушеною до миру,
And that would give more strength to Putin and believe that it is a chance to quickly get back the NATO countries that had always been under the control of the Soviet Union.
що це саме той час, коли можна дуже швидко, по-перше, повернути.
And they believe that these countries also belong to their heritage still. And I believe much is going to be decided this year.
Радянського часу, і вони вважають до сих пір це їх насліддя або спадщина. Тому я думаю, що буде багато чого вирішуватися саме в цьому році.
Ukraine has suffered an awful lot. Families have lost family members in huge numbers. Does Ukraine, do you feel that we're at a point whereby we've done all of this and it could be for nothing?
Це неправда.
No, this is wrong. This is a really sensitive point, but this is wrong.
Наші люди не віддали.
No, our people did not give their lives for nothing. Our people gave their lives for the lives of their children and grandchildren, and for the lives of all Ukrainians today. And these people performed not only their personal, but also constitutional duty to defend their country. And this is more than the constitution. This is their choice to fight for Ukraine to exist.
Боротьба за те, щоб Україна існувала. Я вважаю, що вони ці люди, яких з нами немає.
I believe that these people who are no longer with us, they already have prevailed. Putin has not realized it yet, but Ukrainians have already won. And Ukrainians who are no longer with us, they put everything they had at stake, and they are already winners. Because if Ukrainians had not united back then, sacrificed their time, their life, their comfort, then Putin would have conquered the whole of Ukraine. That's a fact. And no one would have helped us then. And after conquering the whole country, he would have destroyed us completely. We would just turn into just another Belarus or just another part of the Russian Empire.
Ще одна велика частина Російської імперії.
You've given yourself your life you've dedicated to this. It's affected your family, and sure. How has it been for you personally, if I may ask? It must be quite tough being the president of a country at war against a huge neighbor.
I think the same like with all the families. We lost a lot, but we found more. We found ourselves. I think we found our identity. We know who we are 100%. We know who are Russians 100%. We are, I think, I'm very pleased that I'm the president of the Ukraine, and I'm honorable that I'm the president of Ukrainian people. And my family the same, so all my family here, and we are together. And we've been always together, but we never be close to each other. Even that we have the distance between us, even that we can't see each other each moment, each day, but we are very close.
When do you think this war will end?
We can do everything that we'll do everything to end this war, to do everything, to do this, this, how to say, atmosphere, not atmosphere, possibilities this year to end this war this year. I think now we have
in the coming year,
in 2025, we can do it, but together with Europe, with the United States, of course, with Ukraine, like a part of this, like the main part of this deal. Yes, and I'm sure it can be big pressure on Russia from Trump and the EU, big pressure on Russia, on Putin, strengthening Ukraine, and then diplomacy. It can be quick. It can be quick. Yes, but it depends on the will. I think it depends on will, who really wants to understand that it's not simple. I mean, it's just simple just to say yes tomorrow. No, it will not be like tomorrow. But it will not be simple, but it can be in the coming year. It can be. I feel it, but it depends on decisions and on the will of some other leaders.
Sorry about that, folks. I was trying to cue something up. We're going to leave it at that for tonight. No movie tonight. And for everybody still here, you're true Mavericks. Thanks for keeping an open mind and listening to all sides. That's how we get closer to the truth. That's how we fight for freedom around here. And with that, I'll let Cosmo take us out tonight. Here's Free Dog. See you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a special guest coming on tomorrow night. Derek Smith returns. He'll give us some thoughts on what he thinks will happen to Justin Trudeau in the days ahead. And we'll update this story about Trump meeting tonight as we speak in Mar-a-Lago to talk about those tariffs. See you tomorrow. Love you guys. 7 p.m. Eastern on the flip side. Take it away, Cosmo.
Touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmos free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog. He's a free dog. He's a free dog. Cosmos got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams. He's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free. He's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? maybe one day when you're feeling low, you'll find your own freedom and let your spirit go. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmos free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. In his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard a bird, a heart full of love and a spirit so free. He's living his life wild and carefree. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard a bird. Cosmos on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.